If you have reptiles, you're going to probably need to come up with a plan for what to do in the state of an emergency. So today, we're going to talk about what to do when that happens. Thanks for stopping by. In case of an emergency, what you do depends on the approximate time that you'll be without power, what kind of reptile or reptiles you have, the temperature outside, the humidity, and what kind of disaster or natural disaster. Now, you'll want to have a container for each of your reptiles to make sure that they have somewhere you can put them if you have to evacuate. If it's a gecko, you're going to need to put them in a hard container. If it's a snake, you can put them in a bag or a pillowcase. Emergency must-haves. You'll want to have a container or containers with holes, pillowcase or sack if you have snakes, warming or cooling pads, a blanket, towel or towels, temperature measuring gun, duct tape, hides or food dishes, food and supplements. Check with your electric company provider to see how long your power will be out. If it's estimated to be a few hours, you should be fine to do things at home to keep your reptiles safe. If it's going to be a few days, or depending on the weather and the kind of reptile, you might want to leave somewhere else and take your reptiles with you. If you have a generator, this is moot. If you do lose power and it's cold weather, you'll want to have warming pads on hand and duct tape to tape them to the side of the container you're putting the reptile in. You'll want to use a temp gun just to make sure that it doesn't get too hot. If it does get too hot, you could put a paper towel in between. You could also have a blanket and a towel inside of the container. But you will want to make sure that the warming pad is outside of the container so the reptile does not get burned. And the idea is you want to have a warm side and a cool side, so if it does get too hot for them, they can always move and get away from it. Natural disasters. Whether it's a fire, a tornado, flood or hurricane, or a zombie apocalypse, you're going to want to make sure that you plan ahead. It's a good idea to prepare in case there's a fire in the future. There are these signs that you can get through Morph Market that you can put on your door that indicates if you have any animals in your home so that when a firefighter comes, they will know to try to get your animals out. So that is helpful. So here is a fire prep list. You'll want to plan an escape route just like you would even if you don't have reptiles, just so you know where to go and what you need to do. Have a container for your reptile or reptiles. Now, time is of the essence. If there's a fire, you need to get out of your house. It is up to you whether or not you grab any of your animals. Now, if it were me, I would grab my bearded dragon if I could get to him and get out. He's a reptile I could just hold to me because he will stay with me. The others, I would have to get them out, put them in a container and get them out the door. And to be honest, if there's a fire, I'm not going to have time for that. It's very sad to think of, but if you have only one reptile you can grab, think of what that would be. Because if an emergency does happen and you have to get out, if you go back for your reptile or reptiles, you need to know which one or ones you would grab. My advice, because I'm always on the safe side, is just get out of your house and let the firefighters help you. If you're warned that there will be a tornado in the area, you'll want to take cover. So take your reptile or reptiles with you. That's where having a container to put them in is important, and to have the preparations for that, like I mentioned earlier in the video. If you haven't lost power yet, you can put them in a container or hold on to them. Or if they're a reptile that will stay with you, that's great. Like a bearded dragon, for example. Well, a ball python might as well. I don't own one, but I hear they're pretty chill. If the power goes out, follow the power outage recommendations that I gave earlier. Flooding or hurricane. Put them in a container off of the floor and away from windows and doors. If the room their enclosure is in doesn't have many windows, you may be able to keep them in there if you have the windows secure. Anytime water is a risk, make sure all electrical items are off of the floor or away from windows, or both. Also, if you are told to flee because of a hurricane, get out. Go to where you need to go. It's important that you are safe, so make sure that you have plans as to what you would do if there's a hurricane and you have reptiles. The bottom line is, if the authorities tell you to evacuate, do it. Get out of the area. Do what you need to do. Take your reptiles with you. I asked Kimber from Hissy Fit some questions about hurricanes since I have never experienced one. I live in the Midwest, and I'm not familiar with this. She graciously answered some questions. I asked, have you experienced flooding? Is it common where you are? And do you have an emergency plan? Kimber from Hissy Fit said,
Susie, yeah, we do get hurricanes where we're at. We get the edge of that here in central Texas. Looks like there's a storm brewing right behind me right now. Just had some lovely thunder. I grew up on Galveston Island and we evacuated all the time. My parents were so good though. They would make it like we were just spontaneously going on a camping trip. And so there was this one year when I was 4 where we went camping all the time during that summer and early fall. So yeah, hurricanes are not new to me. Hi, it's Kimber, your roving reptile and weather reporter coming in and from Central Texas. And we have a lot of flooding here in Central Texas, which causes us sometimes to have to evacuate or more likely to lose power. And so I always make sure I have plenty of cooling packs and warmers, like the hand warmers that are disposable and that can keep your critters warm. I would do about the UVB, I don't know. I would ask the Midwestern bearded mama. That's what I would do. I've been wanting to ask you that question anyway. Susie, what would you do if you had someone say, look, I'm about to get paid. I'm about a week from being paid. I have a rescue bearded dragon that was dumped on my front porch and I'm going to get a UVB then, but as far as this next week, I'm not going to have any UVB. What would you suggest they do? So I would love an answer to that question. But as far as my emergency preparedness kit, we have plenty of pillowcases for our snakes. We have these bins that we have plenty of, so we can just load them up in the back of a vehicle. For our isopods, it's for our snakes and for Tad Cooper. So warming packs, pillowcases, bins, a couple of water dishes, and I'm forgetting some, and a first aid kit. I would love to hear from you as to what I need to include because I know it's not fully equipped. Thanks. Bye.
Hey Kimber, responding back to your question about UVB. What I would do is take my bearded dragon outside if I lost power, and that way you can get them some natural UVB. If it's a matter of there isn't a power outage, but you don't have the money to get UVB for your reptile, I would say if there's any way you can hold off on taking that reptile until you have the UVB, I would do that. Otherwise, you could always put it on your credit card to get the UVB. But I would recommend just waiting to get the reptile until you're ready and you have everything. So that's it. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time, or I'll see you in the comments. Bye. Aw, my little friend.